Good afternoon. Well, thank you all so much for being here. My name is Brandon Lanners. I'm the Executive Director of the Office of Global Learning here on campus. It's my pleasure to welcome you all. It's my pleasure to see so many of you after we had our virtual sessions over the summer. I do think it's interesting that all of you are coming here to this elite institution, obviously overachievers, and you all chose to sit in the back of the room. So thanks to Margaret for moving you up front a little bit. Before we start up, I want to give a shout out to two people that are part of the Office of Global Learning team that have been critical to our prepare session. So Lauren Gabuzzi, you all know Lauren, but thank you, Lauren. Round of applause for Lauren. And my colleague, Margaret Gallo. Margaret. Hey. And then, of course, to all of our mentors that are helping and so many others around campus, you'll have a chance to meet a variety of people this afternoon. We have several sessions that are lined up for you, so you can learn about different aspects of campus. We're excited, to give you this information. Of course, there's opportunities for question and answer as well. I believe we have in the schedule set up a little bit of a break time. So we'll break up some of the sitting that we're doing right now. And of course, tonight we have casino night. And then tomorrow we'll do our scavenger hunt. And then we'll have what's going to happen at the end? Lauren, Margaret, do you remember? Our closing celebration and our talent, Our talent show. I'm not going to make you raise your hand to see who signed up for the talent show already, but just know that if not enough of you sign up, I will start singing. And I actually my wife bought one of those little karaoke machines with the disco ball on top. So I do come prepared. So make sure to sign up for the talent show, work with your group, work on your own. So we're going to go ahead and get started up. One thing I wanted to say, if anyone needs to use the restroom or the washroom, all you need to do is go through the doors, and then you'll see a big screen on the wall on the left. The bathrooms are behind that. That's also where you can go to get water. They have drinking fountains, or if you need to, fill a bottle or something like that. So please feel free to get up and do that as you need to. So just to get started again, from the Office of Global Learning, thank you all so very much for being here at Cornell, for participating in Prepare. Rumor has it that this is our 35th anniversary of offering Prepare. Prepare is always something for me that is incredible when it's happening, but especially afterwards, like 4 years afterwards. We in the Office of Global Learning and our Global Cornell, we always have what we call a graduation reception for our international students. And, after 4 years of being here, so many international students will tell me that Prepare is really what started them off on the right foot, is what really made it for them. So great to see all of you here. I hope you have an opportunity to form important relationships, to have some fun. The whole idea behind Prepare is so that you have an opportunity to be together in an environment that is by and for international students, recognizing that the other orientation sessions that you're going to participate in are for all students. And so Prepare has been really important to give you kind of a particular focus, to center you, to center your needs, give you that social opportunity before we let you loose into the rest of campus. So really do try to take advantage. Some of the sessions that we're going to have now, I always forget to do that. Hold on. Uh-oh. Lauren, I'm frozen. Some of the sessions that we're going to have today, we'll be talking about how you can best take advantage of resources. So you're going to meet with people from our career services, from our Einaudi Center for Global Studies. Oh, hold on just a second while we get the things unfrozen. Let's see. There we go. At the end of this session, we're going to have a chance for you to hear more from your mentors. We're going to have a panel discussion. I have some questions that I've written out, and that also gives you a chance to ask questions as well. So We are now going to go ahead and get started with our next speaker. I'd like to introduce Wendy Wolford, who is our Vice Provost for International Affairs and also the Robert A. and Ruth E. Polson Professor of Global Development. Wendy's going to provide a welcome, and then we'll also be talking about Cornell academic values. Wendy, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm told I have to stay here so that the camera can see me. Otherwise, I would walk around and, come stand next to you and make you feel awkward, because that's what faculty like to do, just so you know. Great to see everyone. I will say that I have been in many places around the world, and I've been in Ithaca for 13 years now, and I don't think I've ever seen a mall as depressing as our mall. So I'm sorry that you were over there and subject to the empty stores and the, anyway, we have many other things to do here than go to the mall, thankfully. You can be outside, and that's probably a better idea than going to this mall. But there are lots of other stores, and New York City is only 4 hours away. So welcome. It's great to see you all. It's a real privilege to get to be here and your first moments on campus. And hopefully I'll see you at different moments during your 4 years here, and then get to see you at graduation at the end of it. And I hope that at your graduation, you'll be a little more lively than right now. That will be exciting. But you know that we have international students from all over the world here on campus. I'm sure that people have told you that about 24% of our students overall are international, and about 10 to 11% of our undergraduates. So it's a significant number of our students on campus, coming from 67 different countries, and more if you count those who didn't come from another country but hold multiple or at least 2 passports. So it may seem like you've come to a small little town in the middle of nowhere. It takes a long time to get here. We don't have a proper airport. We don't have a proper mall. But it's a very cosmopolitan community, and one that embraces its international students, staff, and faculty. So I hope that you find each other and solidarity in one another, but also solidarity with the whole community here in Ithaca. Cornell had international students in its very first class when it started, when it formed in 1865, when it was founded in 1865. So we had international students in the very beginning, and the university is kind of an unusual university. It's the only one in the United States that is both a land-grant university and an Ivy League. So this is a university that has been engaged in making a difference, and I'll talk about our core values in a second, but has been involved not just in research and teaching and learning, but also in impact and relevance and making a difference in the world. And we've been doing that internationally since the early 1900s. So work in plant breeding, urban design, infrastructure, research around bridges and highways, and increasingly, as the 1900s went on, welcoming more and more students to our own campus, such that now about 50% of our PhD students are international. So if you like Cornell as an undergrad, maybe you'll love it as a graduate student when you come back. It's my job just to welcome you one more time. You've had a lot of welcomes. I would say you're probably getting so much advice and you'll remember only a very, very small bit of it. So I won't give you any advice, just to say that we're really thrilled to have you here and hope that you're able to make the most of it. This office, the Office of the Vice Provost of International Affairs, is here for you. We do everything related to our international community, so that's students, that's staff, and that's faculty. And we do all of the work, we help to coordinate the work that sends our students, staff, and faculty out into the world. So if you have questions, if you want to know everything from international student associations to questions about paperwork to housing, somebody in the office can help or can direct you where to go. It's a big university and there are a lot of hills. So you get these Cornell calves which some people like and some people don't, from walking up and down a lot of hills. But as you try to navigate this university, just know that this office is here and that we can help you find answers if you want them. I find that students often come and feel like they're already supposed to know where everything is and supposed to know how to do their courses and everything. And of course, you're not. That would be a lot to ask. I don't know where most of the buildings on campus are. It's really terrifying when people ask me for directions because I often can't help them at all. So anyway, ask questions, ask them early, and often people are here to help. We have a reputation as the nice Ivy. Have you heard that? Well, it is the nice Ivy, probably because you can't really be a jerk in such a small town, you know, because you'll flip somebody off at the crosswalk and then you'll see them again. They're a student in your class or they're, believe me, when you're driving, you want to be flipping people off because it's a difficult campus to drive around. But it's really a nice campus. People are generally very collaborative. I came here after years of being a professor at UNC Chapel Hill. I got my PhD at Berkeley. When I came here, this was the first place where I felt that, first of all, people were generally interested in learning to the exclusion of competing. You know, they weren't elbowing other people out to try to get ahead. This was really a place where your ideas mattered and it was evident that you could contribute. That sounds kind of cheesy, but you'll feel it. You'll see it in your everyday interactions, I hope, and in your classes. I also think this is one of the places where working across academic or disciplinary boundaries, so putting together architecture and engineering, or music theory and math. Those are pretty standard, not all that surprising, but coming up with really interesting examples of being able to collaborate across borders. So some of our, say, fashion design and new materials, and maybe thinking about communication or industrial labor relations, departments that they don't have at a lot of other universities, but that here get everybody into a room talking not about the discipline or about a group of older classics in the field, but about problems and what tools do you need to address them. So I hope that you're able to make friends, navigate campus, and also learn a lot about things that matter in the world. I have a brief presentation to do for you. I'm doing it not because I'm an expert, because somebody had to do it. And it's an important one. It's a presentation on two sort of issues that are related. One of those is our core values and academic freedom and free expression. And the other one is on academic integrity. And the only discussion in a way worse than this is the one about gorge safety, but they're equally important. So don't swim in the gorges and listen to me for about 15 minutes. And then you can go back to the mall, because I know you're dying to go to the roller derby is actually a thing. So roller skating is big in Ithaca, in case you saw that and want to get involved. Do I move these forward? Yes, okay. So like I said, so two different pieces to this conversation, the core values and academic integrity. Well, that kind of got people excited. Now there's some discussion of roller derby, where to rent skates. Who here has looked up Cornell's core values? Okay, I don't want to put you on the spot, but excellent that you looked them up. So I'm guessing that very few of you chose to come to Cornell because of our core values. Yeah, if you don't know what they are, I think our core values are awesome. And I'm jaded, and I've been a professor for a long time, but I think they're quite well done. So these were formulated in 2017, 2018. They were announced in 2019. They were the product of a whole campus conversation. And you can imagine, right? We had all this discussion about what do we really stand for? What are we here for? Conversations that can often be really difficult. But actually, it was a good discussion across campus. So let me just quickly go through these. purposeful discovery is what every university is here for, right? Discovery, the production of new knowledge and understanding of the world. But the purposeful part is that land grant part. So the purposeful part is that we consider knowledge to be for a purpose, and that purpose is something about being relevant in our particular context. So purposeful discovery, free and open inquiry and expression. This is one that I'm sure you've heard something about because our president, Martha Pollack, decided that this entire upcoming year should be a conversation about what free expression is in the university. So you've probably heard a fair bit about some of the controversy with free expression. It's not a controversy about free expression, but just how do we define it? How do we understand it? How does it actually get implemented on a very diverse campus? So I'm going to save that one and come back to it briefly. A community of belonging, you'll hear that a lot. We talk about a community of belonging a lot at Cornell. People often think it's about inclusion, which it is, but it's more than just inclusion. It's about inclusion and then empowering everybody in the community to be able to make a contribution, which means respecting everyone. So a community of belonging is up there as one of our important core values. Exploration across boundaries, that's what I was talking about. If I'm a professor in the ag school in the Department of Global Development because I'm a rural sociologist, then I can think about applying for money to work with somebody who is in city and regional planning, or somebody who's in the law school. So inquiry across what would be traditional boundaries, that's also a core value. The fifth one, that's the land grant mission, changing lives through public engagement. So you'll hear a lot about engagement and the desire for our students to have the opportunity, not to be forced to engage, but to have the opportunity to be able to do research or learning that is in conjunction with, in partnership with a community organization or a public office, so that you can see, well, how does the university think about this problem, and how do other people who might be relevant to the problem also think about it? So community engagement is a key one. And then respect for the natural environment. It's not just a nice way of saying that we live in the rural area, so we might as well embrace what we have around us. But it's, and you all know this better than any of us, it's about thinking in a sustainable way and keeping sustainability and the future of our planet paramount in your mind as you think about the kind of coursework you're doing, the kind of relationships you're making. And this summer being the hottest and most variable on record in terms of everything from storms to wildfires, I mean, we're hoping that you all can find something like a way forward. So that's also a core value and has been for a very long time at Cornell. So free and open inquiry and expression. This is one, again, that we're going to be talking about throughout the year. There will be programming in the global office. So we'll have a number of conversations with international scholars who talk about what free expression looks like in different countries. So in different contexts, what are the ways, the mannerisms, the thinking around expression, and how and under what conditions is free expression something that people take for granted or do in a way that's different than how you might find it done in a classroom here at Cornell. So there will be a lot of programming about free and open expression, but the most important thing I think that we're going to have everybody be talking about is the need to be able to discuss, share, argue with ideas across a very diverse student body, and to be able to engage with and hear ideas that you might not agree with, right? And so the argument, the basis of free and open expression is to be able to listen and to argue, but also to respect and to engage. And I think the bottom line is that free and open expression means that there's very rarely space for disrupting the speech. So within the confines of a particular class, there may be things that you're not talking about in that class, right? And that the professor or the TA will say, that's not something we're discussing. That's a fine opinion to have. But this class is about, life science. It's not about your opinion of politics, in the US, right? So while that's a valid opinion, it's not part of this classroom. And that's academic freedom, right? That means that the faculty person has the right to sort of say, this is the content of this class and this is what we're talking about. That's different than free expression, where free expression is an expectation that people will be able to talk about what they believe and to make arguments about that, and that you have the right to walk away, you have the right to argue, to engage, you have the right to protest, right? We have a long and very proud history of protest in this country, on this campus. Protest is not the issue, but active disruption of another person's right to speak is not part of free expression. And that's part of what we're going to be talking about all year. Any questions about that? Any thoughts about it? I know that's really heavy to put out there and then to ask you if you have any questions. I wouldn't. I'd be just looking down at my paper. But that, I think, yeah, again, that's something that you'll have lots of opportunity to talk about. And we just want to put it out there, not because international students are special. You'll be talking about this in your other orientations as well. But given that there are sometimes different interpretations of what free expression means, it's good to have us all be on the same place. And it is a core value to Cornell. It is something that the university feels really strongly about, such that we have all of this programming happening this year. Okay, academic integrity. This is about, people think of academic integrity as plagiarism, and it is plagiarism, or it's about plagiarism, but it's also about a whole set of things to do with how you approach your schoolwork and how you engage your other students in a class, your faculty member, your own work with integrity. So integrity is difficult to define. We're just going to spend a little bit of time today talking more about what that looks like. Anybody have a definition for, let's start with plagiarism, because that's maybe a little bit easier. Anybody have a good definition of plagiarism? No. Who was following the case with Ed Sheeran? Sheeran. The singer. Yeah. Marvin Gaye. Yeah. It did finish. I think it finished, unless there's an appeal. Not guilty. Not guilty. Yeah, and it was a particular chord progression that's pretty common, but distinctively found in one of Marvin Gaye's songs that's also found in Ed Sheeran's song. What I thought was so interesting about that case was that there were so many different opinions about it. I mean, partly it comes down to whether or not you like Ed Sheeran versus whether you like Marvin Gaye, and maybe that's important to remember, right? That context matters, but it is sometimes really difficult to know what academic integrity looks like in your written work or in your team projects, right? So let me ask you, if you are taking data from the World Bank or the CIA information about a country, and then you're writing a report that's about that country, but your report is about something very sophisticated, the textile industry, and this information from the World Bank or CIA is just like setting the context. It's like, Madagascar is an island located off the eastern coast of Southern Africa. You know what I mean? It's like pretty basic stuff. What do you think about citing that material or not? Do you cite it or don't you? Who thinks you should cite something that's like Madagascar, the location of Madagascar? Should you cite it? Put your hand all the way up if you think you should cite it. And who thinks you shouldn't cite it or don't need to cite it? So there are a whole bunch of you who don't know. And there isn't necessarily a right answer. The thing is that there are people who think you should cite it and people who don't think you need to cite it because it's so obvious. And then most Americans don't know where it is, so they need to cite it because they definitely looked it up. No, I'm kidding, but that might be true. But the point of that is that you don't always know what you need to cite and how often you have to cite, right? There is information out there that is widely known, but that you might have had to look up, and there might be information that changes year to year. So population. Well, the teacher's going to want to know, of course, you know this, where you got that population figure from, because it could be different than, another source for it. I will say, so I've been faculty for 23 years, and I've had 3 pretty bad plagiarism and academic unintegrity cases in my career. And the first one was pretty obvious, and it was a really sad case of an undergraduate who took verbatim a passage from really one of your most sophisticated philosophers, Homi Bhabha, if you happen to know him. I can never understand a thing he says. Like it's so esoteric, but he took a paragraph and put it right into his essay. And that didn't cite it, put the words in there as his own. That was an extremely clear case, but it was still one that took, I think it was probably 6 months to resolve. Because of all of the back and forth about, did they intend to do it? Did they understand in the beginning that such a thing was a violation of academic integrity? So in that case, even with an extremely clear example, it was still something that cost that student considerable time. It cost me considerable time. There was a lot of back and forth. This wasn't at this institution. And so in that institution, you had a jury of your peers. And so there was a lot of discussion in that jury over whether or not this was something that should result in just an F on the paper or an F for the class or something formal on their record. It's extremely painful. And I think, a conversation at any moment with your TA or faculty person about whether or not something should be cited or something constitutes a problem or a violation is always the right way to go. Just ask ahead of time, do I need to cite this? So the second example, these were PhD students. These were PhD students in another country, but I was on the review board for these PhD proposals, and they had taken information from published sources on the web and pulled them into their own proposals and cited the source at the very top of the paragraph, but then used verbatim passages from the report in their paper without quotation marks. But the thinking was, well, I've cited that report at the beginning of the paragraph, I should be fine, right? And the issue was that was supposed to be a reflection of your own ideas. And so having other people's words without quotation marks was not allowed. So again, there was a case where there was an argument made that this would have been fine where these students did their former work. This would have been acceptable. And so a faculty member should always say at the beginning of class, this is what I will consider to be plagiarism, or this is what I consider to be academic integrity, and maybe give examples. But if you have any questions, just ask, because it's not always clear, and you don't want to have to go to court like Ed Sheeran or my student in either case. The third one is a little bit more, this was a case that actually happens. It's not uncommon that you might have a disagreement over who actually authored a piece. You're working with a group, they think you didn't contribute, you think you did, you haven't talked beforehand about what order the authors will go in. And does the order of the authors indicate who put more work into it? So thinking about these sort of things when you're starting a project, discussing them with your colleagues, discussing them with a TA or faculty member can help you avoid some of the most common issues around academic integrity that we see at the university. Let me see, we might have questions. Yeah, defined as fairness. And there are some pretty, obvious things like citing someone else's words verbatim, but then other issues that might be about collaborative work or using sources without citing them properly. Probably the one on everybody's mind is ChatGPT, right? Or other kinds of open AI. And to what extent that is or constitutes a lack of integrity. And that's huge. If you come up with an answer to that, then send me an email because that would be great. We have a lot of committees working on defining what a violation using OpenAI language processing tools would look like. When can you use them? We're now saying you can use them to help you write application essays to get into Cornell. So it would be not very fair to then have you come to the university and then say, no OpenAI, no ChatGPT. So again, the guidance coming from the university is going to be that it depends on the class. There will be classes, I'm guessing your Shakespeare class might say, no OpenAI. These have to be all your own words. You have to use your own thinking. And then there might be classes where OpenAI is going to be like the calculator. It's going to help you get to a level of sophistication that you can then build on, as opposed to you having to do all of this work. So I know you've probably had a lot of conversations in other places about ChatGPT and other tools. That's something that the university will be putting more guidance out. But at this point, it's safe to say that there are faculty who will say, it's okay, use it in this way, and faculty who will say, not in this class. And those are the rules that stand in terms of ChatGPT. Any questions about that? You, I'm sure, have much better questions than I do, since it's, in a sense, I probably haven't experimented. How many people here have asked ChatGPT a question? Yeah, so most people. Boy, I'd like to know what your questions were, but I won't ask you. I asked it to be my trainer and put together a training plan for an ultra race. And then my knee gave out, so there you go. It's not very useful. Yeah, some ways to acknowledge or to give credit, fairly straightforward. I tell you, I just finished writing a book, and I had to write these same sentences so many times, right? You get tired of it because you have to attribute all over. You might have a paragraph where you use one source 18 times, like I mentioned in the beginning. And then you just have to think, maybe at the beginning of the paragraph you wrote, what comes next was derived in part by information from, and then you cite the report once. Maybe you put a footnote and attribute. Maybe you do cited, first you give the full citation and then you do opposite, right, throughout. Yeah, this is just to say that it's better to ask up front, and nobody expects everybody to know what constitutes academic integrity in every case. So asking rather than having to go through some of the disciplinary or other things, because it is just such a toll and has big consequences. Yeah, it's going to get harder and harder to keep all of this in your head because you'll get busier and busier. And so time management will make you want to take shortcuts. So think about the problem rather than the manifestation. If the problem is the time management rather than the manifestation, which is how do I cite this report, then maybe, go back and fix the being too busy thing rather than the citation piece. Yeah, I'll leave that up. That's it. There are pretty good guidelines on the web, and there is a lot of help in the libraries and of course with every one of your faculty. Any questions on that? You'd rather be back at the mall? No? Okay. Well, it was great to get to have a little bit of an introduction, and I know I'll see you over the coming days. So take care and welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Wendy. We're going to now move forward with our next presentation. Give me just a second. Let me move a few things around. Lauren, how's that sounding? Okay. Well, now I would like to introduce two colleagues from our career services. So Erica Ford, International Career Development Coach, and Rebecca Reel, Peer Career Coach. So junior in Human Biology, Health, and Society. Major will come on up. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. I'm Erica Ford. Thank you, Brandon, for introducing Rebecca and I. As Brandon said, we come from career services. Rebecca and I work in the Central Career Services office, and we dream and think all day about jobs and resumes and things that a lot of students care about. Okay, so what is career services? Grab my notes. So Career Services is a network of career offices across the Cornell campus that's responsible for supporting you and your peers as you journey through your career development. So we empower students to do the following: to identify their strengths, interests, and values, to discover and explore possibilities, to gain experience, and to develop strategies to help them pursue diverse career paths and manage career decisions. We have a central office located in Barnes Hall. If you've been outside today, it's along the path that has a lot of tables where you can go up and ask questions about various offices. Don't know what direction we're facing, so I won't even try. But I am located on the first floor, and so will Rebecca be.
So, all right, so here are some common career questions that most students here have, no matter where they're from. But you guys are, and so am I, international students. So these are extra considerations that international students face when trying to apply for a job, whether it be during Cornell or after Cornell. So who is available to help you answer these questions?
Sorry, we ran through those. Hopefully you got to read a couple. So where do you go if you have career-related questions? There are so many things that you as international students studying on student visas have to consider before you make career decisions. You'll hear words thrown out there like CPT and OPT and academic training. Well, where do you go when you need to get your questions answered? Well, there's international services, which exists within the Office of Global Learning, and then there's career services. So questions like, am I able to work on campus? Or what do I need to do to get CPT or OPT? All the ins and outs regarding immigration policies, you go to international services to have those questions answered. Now, the how-tos for getting a job. You want someone to look at your resume. You want to prepare for an interview. Career Services is the place to help you with those questions. These are just a few things. So if you hear career services, you may get a little intimidated and think that you have to have all of the answers before you come and see us. Well, that's not the case. It's okay if you don't really know what you want to do either during your time at Cornell or after Cornell. I say that knowing that there are other pressures as international students. Just know that it's never too early to come and see us. If you want to start talking about internships, we will support you on a one-on-one basis or as an individual. Experiential learning is probably a term that you'll hear throughout your time at Cornell, which basically stands for trying things out, right? Maybe you do research with a professor, or you want to volunteer somewhere, or you want to join a club. There are so many ways to build skills and explore your interests. You'll also hear this term, it's kind of a buzzword, networking. We have a lot of programs and supports to help you understand what networking is and why it matters, especially when job seeking in the United States. And then most employers, just know this, they're more interested in your skills and not as interested as you might think in your major. Now, this is the career development cycle. It's basically a 3-phase cycle or 3-stage cycle that describes how an individual might come to a desired career. It happens in 3 phases, as I mentioned. Understanding yourself, exploring your options, and taking action. And we can help you at all 3 of these stages, or each of these 3 stages. So how do we help you understand yourself? So we offer one-on-one career counseling. In fact, last year we saw about 13,000 individual students in one-on-one career counseling appointments, which is a lot. And that's across campus. Remember, there are lots of offices that support career. We also offer workshops. We had over 250 workshops during last academic year. And then we also offer career assessments. So maybe you want to learn about your strengths or your values, what jobs are out there for you. We sit down with you and go through career assessments as well.
So how do you know that you are ready for a career? These 8 competencies are from the National Association of Colleges and Employers. No matter the job or employer, every employer will want you to have these skills. So as we mentioned, they don't really look at the major, they look at skills. So as a junior, I pretty much have worked on every single one of these. But during my first year here, the one I remember improving the most was teamwork. You'll quickly learn early on how essential study groups are towards your own personal academic success. So through something like as simple as study groups, I've been able to make a community, been able to land networking opportunities, learn about clubs, learn about even this job I have is because a friend I met through a study group recommended it to me. So it's very important early on to remember that everyone's taking the same step here, and everyone, no matter where you are, it's important to build a community early on that you can depend on during your career here at Cornell. So yeah, these are the skills. Then the career development cycle. So what's the next step? Exploring your options. And how do you do that? So here we have various options. You can do appointments, which are one-on-one, workshops and info sessions, whether it be pre-law, pre-grad, for international students, sponsorship opportunities, resources. Guys, use your resources. There's an abundance of them that are right there at your disposal. Internships and shadowing, networking like CUE links. For the info sessions, many of you have questions like, what can I do with a degree in biology? How do I apply to law school? How do I get started on consulting? And these are all there right there to help you.
Okay, so we've talked about the first 2 phases of the career development cycle. The last phase is taking action. Once you're ready, you know what you want to pursue, whether it's an internship or a job or a club, and you're ready to actually apply for that opportunity, or you're ready for an interview. Well, here are some supports that we offer. So the theme, I think, the thread is we offer individual appointments to talk with you through your application process. We will take a look at your resumes, your cover letters, your LinkedIn profile, if you don't have LinkedIn yet. to help you to present yourself in the best way that you possibly can to a potential employer. We offer practice interviews. I believe those are 30 minutes of time. So if you want to sit down and prepare for an interview you have for a potential job, we will give you feedback one-on-one. And then we offer things like career fairs, on-campus employment opportunities, interviews on campus. So a lot of times employers will come to recruit students for internships and full-time jobs. We also offer what we call the profile picture kiosk. And as of today, we have this really neat photo booth. It's an electric self-sustained photo booth where you can go and take a very good quality headshot photo. How many of you use LinkedIn? Anyone? Okay, so you all probably know that you're expected to have a really nice photo for your LinkedIn profile. So if you're looking to update your photo, or maybe you don't quite like the photo that you have, we do have a free photo booth. You don't need an appointment or anything, and it's located on the second floor of Barnes Hall. Now, here are some resources, especially for you all and other international students. So there's me, resource, a person. As I mentioned, I'm the International Career Development Coach. You can book a one-on-one appointment with me or with another career coach, either in Barnes Hall or in your college online. And I'll have some QR codes up, but our website is career.cornell.edu. We also have online resources just for international students. We have a website called Going Global with some neat tools, including an H-1B database or guides to help you in your job search, including if you're looking at jobs in other countries. We are about to sign on with a new tool called InterStride. Some of you may have heard of it, especially if you've transferred from another school, but it's a lot like Going Global. And then we have an online course called the Career Development Toolkit that covers a lot of different career topics, and there is an international student section in that course. Then we offer workshops. Here are a few, a couple of workshops that are coming up this fall. There will be an international student career Q&A. I hope that's, is that seconds or minutes? Sorry. Okay, great. And then last spring, we did something called Networking for International Students. We also, if you're in a one-year program, specifically like MING or Masters of Professional Studies, there's a special workshop coming up for you all this fall as well. Here are some of our web resources. Sorry, this is covering part of the screen. So you'll want to visit our website. Hopefully you can scan this QR code, but again, you could just type in career.cornell.edu. There we go. So you can scan that QR code with your phone and visit us. I will point out, in order to make an appointment with the Central Career Services Office, you just click that red button in the upper right-hand corner. There's an international student appointment type where you can book with me. I don't know, I don't remember where the other offices are on our website, but you could just reach out and we'll point you to the right place if you need help finding the career office in your college.
So this is a career development toolkit. It's accessible 24/7, and what it is, it's self-paced and industry specific. So whether you are engineering, consulting, data science, you'll find something right up your alley to help you get started. Here you can go for job offers, need help preparing for an interview, someone reading your resume, how to build a portfolio, international resources like specific for you guys, virtual fairs and fellowships, even how to write a cover letter. These are all that you can access at any time through Canvas. I'm sure you guys have heard of it, whether in high school or somewhere else, but these are helpful to get you to understand yourself, explore options, and take an action toward your career.
We also have recorded sessions. So We've offered, I mentioned we had over 250 workshops last year. Some of those have been recorded. An example of one that will go up eventually is, how to immigrate to Canada if you're looking for jobs in Canada. I don't think that one's been posted, but it will be. There are other workshops there, including how to choose a medical or dental school, and how to organize your job or internship course. And for those of you who are interested in consulting as a field, how to prep for case interviews. So lots of workshops that you can watch at any time as well.
So Handshake's another one accessible 24/7. It's an app, can be going on your phone or your computer, wherever you are. It has so many jobs and internships. I think between 6,000 to 10,000 new job postings pretty much every month. And over 38,000 employers have been approved to recruit at Cornell through Handshake. There are newsletters, alumni panels, interview slots. I have friends who've landed internships, whether it be in Amazon, national parks, DC, or something making a meaningful impact in a lesser known company or a startup. There are so many, basically, so there's something there for every guys. So if you want to get the app and get started on an internship for next summer or throughout your years at Cornell, this is going to be a very helpful app for you guys.
This is the career outcomes dashboard. So basically, at the end of every semester, our office and partner colleges across campus collect information about job placement. So we ask our alumni, where did you get your first job out of Cornell? And we make that information publicly available through our career outcomes dashboard. There's also a PhD career dashboard that has both academia and industry jobs, but this is where you find bachelor's and master's graduates. Go ahead and scan that QR code. You can find it through our website as well, or type in this URL. You can search by major. You can find out how much, what salary people were earning, what industries people went into, what specific employers hired alumni, and you can search about 6 years back. So I highly recommend it. I love looking at the dashboard to see where our alumni are landing. It also gives you ideas, especially as international students who may not know, you may know some employers like big names, Meta, Amazon, etc. But there are a lot of other companies out there, and this can kind of help you see who is hiring students from Cornell. And lastly, I think this is our last thing. So I mentioned networking earlier. So basically, if I can describe it in short terms, networking is making meaningful connections in the hopes that it will benefit you either now or down the road professionally. So we have a website called CUE Links, where alumni from Cornell dating various years back have volunteered to connect with current students or recent alumni to answer questions like, what if they went through the H-1B work visa process after they were done, and how did they get there? Or they are working in your industry or for a company that you're really interested in, and you have questions about how they got there, what tips would they offer you as someone who aspires to work in this job or in this company someday? Or maybe you want to immigrate to Canada, for example, or do an internship in Mexico. There are a lot of alumni all over the world who have volunteered to be on this site because they want to connect with you and other students. So I highly recommend CUE Links. I'm a fan. You can send messages, you can request meetings either by phone or through Zoom or other virtual platforms. Just a really good tool. So I recommend that. And that is all we have. Our hours are Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. We work throughout the year, including in summer when most students are on break. Again, our website is career.cornell.edu. This is our email address. Feel free to contact us there and follow us on Instagram if you're on Instagram. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Always love hearing from Career Services. Next up, we have the Mario Einaudi Center for International Studies with Sarah Pattinson. So take it away. Good morning.
Good afternoon, everyone.
I know we're getting restless. We're having one more presentation and then a short break with snacks. So please hold in there. Keep your attention strong. This is a really wonderful presentation.
Are you sure? She's giving me a lot of credit just to start with here. Which of these mics can it'll just work if I pick it up? Testing. Oh, good. We are good to go. Good afternoon, everyone. How's everybody doing? Good. I see some tired faces. I'll try to keep it peppy. First of all, welcome to Cornell University. What an honor and a privilege it is for me to be able to welcome you. And I would like to say to you, foremost, congratulations. And I'm so proud of you all. I understand what kind of courage it takes to come to another country, to come to the United States, to come to a place like Ithaca and Cornell University. So give yourselves a round of applause and congratulate yourselves for what you've done to get here. So my name is Sarah Pattinson. I am the Associate Director for Academic Programs at the Mario Einaudi Center for International Studies. And what I want to share with you very briefly today is how you can stay globally engaged while you're here at Cornell. So how do we do this? The Mario Einaudi Center for International Studies is Cornell's hub for global engagement while you're here. We are all about campus engagement for social action, global thinking. The Mario Einaudi Center has helped students and scholars across borders, across languages, culture, nationality, academic disciplines for more than 60 years. Today, Cornell is one of the most international universities in the world because of the programming that we offer here. So while you're here, you have the opportunity to be globally engaged. Our mission is to organize, stimulate, and support research, teaching, and outreach programs and activities to enhance both graduate and undergraduate student education and to prepare the Cornellians, that includes you all, to contribute to the international sphere. How many of you picture yourselves in careers that are going to be international or global in scope in some way? Most likely, right? You're already starting down that path because you've chosen to study in another country. The truth is, most people, not just our international students, but when they leave Cornell, you're going to be involved in international groups. So it's a really great idea while you're here to be connected to the network that's offered through the Einaudi Center to become even more globally engaged and develop that type of networking and community while you're here. So how do we do this? Let me move us forward. So the Mario Einaudi Center is 8 regional and thematic programs. That's the heart of our center. Our programs promote new ways of understanding people and places as we work together across Cornell and around the world to tackle transnational challenges like migration, food security, and social justice. At the Mario Einaudi Center for International Studies, we have global research priorities. So both through the regional and thematic programs that I just showed you, as well as our global research priorities, you can be engaged in these topics with faculty research groups. We have hundreds of affiliated faculty and put on so many events and bring in really well-known speakers from around the world to talk about these issues and to give you a sense of how we're engaged, how we're pushing forward some of these really important global topics like inequalities, identities, and justice is one of our research priorities. For that one, our research group examines global inequalities and supports advocacy for access and accountability. Members of our Migrations Research Priority Group work to catalyze research, teaching, and building for a world on the move. And members of our Democratic Threats and Resilience Research Priority Group address global challenges to democracy and evolving democratic norms. Each of these groups is bringing in speakers, putting on panel discussions about these topics on a regular basis. And this is all through the Einaudi Center. Another way that you can be engaged with the Einaudi Center while you're here is consider taking on an academic minor. We offer several minors, some of them through our Asian Studies program, like South Asian Studies, Southeast Asian Studies, and East Asian Studies. And we also do international relations, migration studies minor, European studies, as well as Latin American studies. We also offer funding opportunities. For undergraduate funding, there's a QR code that will take you to our website there, and I'll talk a little bit more about what type of funding opportunities are available through the Einaudi Center. Two in particular that you might be interested in if you're an undergraduate student is our global summer internships. These are open to international students. In fact, I'll show you a video in a little bit that includes some of our international students who've done global summer internships while they've been at Cornell. These internships will connect you with our faculty conducting international research right now. So you get to be a part of one of their research projects. There's also a network of global practitioners that we connect our students with to do a summer internship. And also you would probably be connected with one of our regional studies programs, such as Latin American studies, if you're going to Ecuador to do a community partnership to look at climate change there is just one example. We also have the Laidlaw Scholars Program. This is a 2-year program you could be a part of if you're an undergraduate student. We're looking for students to be globally engaged citizens in this program. We provide leadership training to be ethical leaders and also internationally focused research or community engagement projects. So this would happen in your first summer of this program. We prepare you with ethical leadership training, and then you're involved in an internship or a research project abroad for the first summer. You come back and you're still one of the Laidlaw Scholars. You're presenting the research that you've been a part of, and you're also then helping to mentor the next group of Laidlaw Scholars. So this is an amazing program. I encourage you to check this out. If you're in your first or second year, you would qualify for this program. All funding is provided, so none of your international travel comes out of your pocket for either of these opportunities. So there's some great funding available that you might want to consider doing more than just studying in the United States during your academic career. We also put on some signature events on campus each year. This is one we did last year. We do the Lund Critical Debate. Last year, we brought Thomas Garrett. He's the Secretary General for Community of Democracies, and Damon Wilson, who is the President for the National Endowment for Democracy. And they debated about democracy and its opposites. It was a very engaging conversation. And we're not sure who we're bringing this year, but this type of event gives you opportunity to meet some really interesting people and like actually engage in debate and get an interesting view on topics like democracy. This year, it might be around, you heard Wendy Wolford speaking about freedom of expression. Maybe we'll do a debate about that. So this is a pretty cool opportunity. Our other big one is our Bartels World Affairs Lecture. Last spring, we brought Carlos Alvarado Quesada. He was the former president of Costa Rica. And his lecture was all about fighting for democracy and using democracy for climate justice, climate change in Costa Rica. So, you know, we gave students last year the opportunity to meet a former president. This year, I don't have the graphics for it yet, but I'm excited to let you know. Has anybody heard of N.K. Jemisin? She is an author who writes fantasy and science fiction, New York Times bestseller. I just had the opportunity to read one of her books for the first time. We're bringing her this year to talk about what it is to imagine the future. You'll hear a lot about that at campus this semester. Reading books, reading circles, all that kind of stuff will happen. And that'll be through our Bartels World Affairs lecture. I want to give a little plug for the International Fair. So all of these opportunities I'm talking about, plus so many more, you'll have the opportunity to come to our International Fair in just a couple weeks. It will be right over there in Uris Hall, which is where the Einaudi Center is. Our programs, these opportunities to do global internships, and also all of our study abroad opportunities put on by the Office for Global Learning. Well, you know, it's just a fair with all the tables and candies and fun stuff to do. Also, if you're interested in studying languages while you're here, I definitely encourage you to come to the International Fair and meet those faculty that are supporting language study here. And let's see if this one works. Yeah, this is our director, Rachel Betty Rydell, and I'll just let you listen to her message here.
What are options? Climate change. What do you want to learn? African development, healthcare, nuclear disarmament. I think if you reflect on these, there are numerous resources at the university to help you in that pursuit. For me, that was the Einaudi Center, a place to grow both academically, professionally, and personally. No matter what part of the world you might be interested in, whether that be traveling there, studying it, whether it means just talking to academics who know more about it. The Einaudi Center has it.
Hello, I'm Rachel Betty Rydell, the director of the Mario Einaudi Center for International Studies. When I was in college, I was fortunate to have studied abroad in Senegal, where I learned many invaluable lessons from the people there. It was life-changing.
Oops.
And that's what I'd like the Einaudi Center to be for you. 8 regional and thematic programs are the heart of the Einaudi Center. Our programs promote new ways of understanding people and places around the world. We offer academic minors related to those area studies, as well as minors exploring migrations, peace and conflict studies, and international relations. Our multidisciplinary approach is facilitated by thought leaders and experts across a wide range of fields. We have 350 faculty who participate in seminars, lectures, mentoring, and research.
The Einaudi Center is one of those places where there are so many opportunities to get funding, to engage with scholars, not only in your own academic and intellectual work, but also in other intellectual spheres, which, at least in my experience, has helped shape the scholar that I've become.
So when I first arrived at Cornell, I got to know many grad students outside of my home department, and they gave me some perspective on what a grad student can become, and they taught me a lot about how to build and sustain a community. One of our strengths as a community is our support for learning over 50 languages. Arabic and French studies, improve my Japanese, new Mandarin skills.
Since I'm not a native speaker of Spanish, I feel that the digital internship really helped me to improve my Spanish, as well as my confidence in speaking in Spanish.
I recommend taking the less commonly taught languages because the teachers are more able to connect with you personally. I just think it's a really fun and really rare opportunity, and STEAM plays a major role in languages like that.
None of this would be possible without support. We offer many funding opportunities, including research funding, travel grants, language study grants, and internships.
Last year, I received a Wuxi Fellowship in Chinese Studies from a station program to support my fieldwork for my dissertation project in China. This award is not only a form of financial support, but also a very important recognition of the importance and significance of my dissertation project.
I applied for the Fulbright program, which I know was run through the Einaudi Center, and I was incredibly amazed to see the level of support given to students. I think that that's something most universities don't get, is staff actually on hand with the express purpose of helping you win a scholarship like that? And I ended up winning the Fulbright.
I was recently selected as a Thomas R. Pickering Fellow after graduation from Cornell. I'll pursue my master's degree and then join the State Department as a foreign service officer. And now I'm an intern at the Permanent Mission of Malta to the United Nations, where I have been learning about international diplomacy, international law, and European studies at a much more global level.
And I feel confident.
Independence, even when I'm at a university that feels so large, I can find my community.
Qui vivra verra. It means essentially that a job is always easier when done together.
Which means he or she who lives shall see. And I really think that's what Einaudi is all about. The center prepares students to see the world beyond the immediate.
And I hope more students will take advantage of these communities that the Einaudi Center has helped foster. We welcome you to join us at the Einaudi Center for International Studies and enter into a world of knowledge for a world of good.
What are
Oh, we don't want to see it again. Okay, well, there's all of our contact information. I can go back to if you want to get that QR code that will just take you to our website. I definitely encourage you to go to the events, the second one down there, the events calendar. Any given week, we're going to have 2, 3, 5, sometimes 7 speakers, lectures, symposium happening from anything from migrations and how that's affecting, Central America to finance and in East Asia. I mean, the topics are just incredible. The people that we're bringing in are incredible, not to mention the funding opportunities and ways to connect, learn languages, or very specific learning about areas of the world. So I have a few minutes left if anybody has questions. Yes, ma'am. Are you undergrad or graduate student? Undergrad. Are most of you all undergraduate students? So for that, I encourage you to go to the Office of Global Learning. I know because I've worked in study abroad for a while, it's not too early to start like now. Am I right? I'm looking at people. The Office of Global Learning will support you with study abroad opportunities. We're very closely connected with the Einaudi Center, our 2 offices. Including our international internships. So if you're interested in doing that while you're here as an international student, I would say definitely meet with someone in their office. You could also come into the Einaudi Center, which is in yours hall. And there's somebody there dedicated to doing our international internships and who's running the Laidlaw Scholars Program. So I'd say if you're interested, definitely meet with someone as soon as possible, and they'll just kind of take you through the steps for whatever that particular opportunity might be. And of course, being an international student, you'll need to think about visa issues and where you would go. There's, a little bit extra work you would have to do. Does that help start you in the right direction? Other questions? All right, well, thank you for your time. That's lovely to see you all. Welcome to Cornell again, and congratulations again.
All right. Hello, good afternoon. How are you? Let's try again. Hi, good afternoon. How are you? Good. I got some good. How are the snacks? You got granola bars and juice boxes, and there might be some other things out there. That's awesome. It's nice to meet you. We're going to chat a little bit about kind of our work today. My name is Kim Garrison. I work in student support and advocacy services within the Dean of Students office.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to Cornell. I'm Huey Shao. I use pronouns he, his, him. I serve as the Associate Dean of Students and the Director of the Asian and Asian American Center. And so to start off, I just have a couple questions to kind of get things going. If you're able to raise your hand, tell me if this is your first time studying in the US. Okay, looks like maybe the vast majority of who is the second time or third time or beyond Who has studied here before? Okay, don't be shy. Don't be shy. You all are the veterans. So look to these folks. If you're able to meet them, they can give advice. They're great resources. And who here speaks more than 2 languages? Okay, yeah, I'm not surprised. So you may know this already, that in the US citizens, very few can speak more than 2 languages. I think the number is around 20%. And so you all should see that as a strength, that you are here and you're studying. I assume the majority are studying in a language that's not your first language.
Some of the things we like to talk about is what's the weather like here in Ithaca? I know that it probably is 70 degrees and sunny all the time, just kidding. But it is beautiful all year round here in Ithaca. One of the things that we know is that we also get snow. I know, in the winter. How many of you have experienced snow before? Yes. Okay, sounds good. How many of you have not experienced snow before? I see some hands. Okay. That sounds good. One of the things that you'll notice here on campus, when it does get colder outside, you'll see a lot of signs around campus around no maintenance on the sidewalk or some of the other pieces that you might see, right? Just to make sure that you're safe as you're navigating campus. And you know what some of those kind of pieces are. You'll see snowplows out early in the morning, as well as folks out shoveling to kind of take care of that snow if and when it does snow this year.
So we're going to dive into the meat of our presentation. Here's a roadmap, table of contents, what have you, what we're going to talk about. We're going to cover a little bit about culture shock. We're going to go into giving you an overview of student and campus life, which is the division where Kim and I work. We're going to talk about belonging and how to find that in various spaces within student and campus life in particular. Then we're going to go into talking about some of the context, some of the things in society in the US that are floating around that may impact you, right? So the context of living and studying in the US, including gender inclusivity, Black Lives Matter, anti-Asian racism. And then we're going to round out today's presentation about mental wellness and just getting connected. I think that's going to be one of our key words, connected. So how many people have seen this image before? Okay, it's a pretty common image if you've Googled status culture shock. But this is a common arc or bell or whatever you want to call it that people go through, right? The first couple months living abroad. I know I felt this. I've lived and studied abroad in China, in Barcelona, in Spain. I know for sure that I felt this. In the first few months, everything is just happy and everything is just fun. I'm in my honeymoon. And then things are kind of rocky, get a little anxious. That's that dip. But then I remember coming around and adjusting and then finding acceptance and feeling a stronger sense of belonging over time. I recognize that this isn't necessarily going to be everyone's experience. You're going to bring in your own personalities, your own ways of viewing the world. If you've lived in the US, of course, maybe you've already experienced this, or if you've lived other places abroad, this might not be the same for you. We want you to be thinking about culture shock, and in particular, how the experience here and the stress also might impact that. And on that note, I'm going to pass it off to Kim.
Awesome. One of the things about stress that we know is that there sometimes is like really good stress that's healthy, right? There sometimes is really stressful moments, right? Where we're like, oh my goodness, what is this? I really need some support right now, or I need to pick up the phone and call somebody who's important to me at this point. So thinking about that and really that level in between, right? So this part where there's not really much stress, which is over here on the left, all the way to maybe a place where we get really burnt out over on the right. And for all of us, that looks a little bit different, right? In terms of what those things are that are really stressful in our world. So we're going to talk a little bit about that connected piece, right? We wanted to talk about what we're about though, right? These are our 4 core values, thinking about our well-being, our belonging, well-being, growth, and collaboration. That's what we're about. And you know that you've been connected to some of the global learning folks in the space, right? We really want to be a collaborator with global learning to be able to support students as well as a number of other campus partners, because that belonging piece and really that well-being helps us grow as students during our time here. So that's kind of to help you think about what we're all about, right?
Yeah, and these four values, pillars, however you want to call them, they're going to kind of be interwoven throughout today's presentation. But I'm going to talk a little bit about belonging, that idea of creating community that celebrates and appreciates and creates connections for you all when you're here. So finding belonging, this is just some ways in which you can find friends, create a community, make connections, again, that word. Number one, join a student organization. There are so many. There are a ridiculous number of organizations on campus, over 1,000 that you can join. Campus Groups is the website or the app that you can use to peruse the different organizations here at Cornell. So check that out. Finding a leadership position, getting involved, right? Whether it's serving as a resident hall advisor or an orientation leader. Many of the students that are kind of helping out during this week of movement and orientation, those are all leaders, right? And then speaking of leadership, and volunteering is a way of leadership too, right? And there are many opportunities to do that, including the orientation leader example that I gave. But also there's a great center called the Einhorn Center that students can get engaged with to find volunteer opportunities outside of Ithaca, outside of campus, outside of Ithaca. So that's something to check out. Then beyond that, I just want to mention two other things. If you like sports and you're not connected with athletics in some way, playing one of the varsity sports, you can play intramurals if you want to join like the soccer team or the basketball team on your floor. That is something to get involved in and meet new people. And the last thing I want to mention here is getting a job on campus, working with, I think it's Handshake that the university uses, or I think it's, yes, that's through Career Services. I'm also brand new to Cornell. I started in March, so still learning some things. But getting a job on campus is another way to find community and belonging. So definitely check that out. But this just kind of, it's just a quick look at all the different things. So here I want to transition and talk about some of the things that you might experience at Cornell and just living in the US in general. In 2020, President Pollock issued a statement recognizing the historic racialized violence in the US, that it was clear that the community, the university community, had to do something to change the systems and structures that privilege some groups over others. At the same time, Cornell recognizes that there's a tension between this idea of academic freedom, freedom of expression, and finding belonging and recognizing different identities. And so this year, I think it's really great that the theme for the university is the indispensable condition, freedom of expression at Cornell. So you'll be hearing that theme a lot during your time here this year. So look out for different events and programs that allow you to kind of explore this and study this more. Okay, so some more context here. I'll say first off, in terms of the context, in terms of this time in US society, that social justice, activism, I think it's been something that has been important in all of US history, right? But it's been kind of a flashpoint in our country in recent years. And you're arriving at that time in the midst of this flashpoint, right? Where issues of identity, history, and empowerment are very important for many communities. In this section, we're going to cover these topics: gender inclusivity, racial equity, anti-Asian racism. But I want to say we're going to go really fast. It's not going to do these three topics justice. And I want to also acknowledge as a disclaimer that you may experience this already in your home countries. Your home countries may have the world has many societal problems. I'm sure you are dealing with issues such as these in many ways, right? The US is no different. And we just wanted to give you the idea of, give you a sense of the context here. But most importantly, if there's any takeaway, we want you to understand that there are people here on campus, offices that can provide you with support. And we'll be talking about that in the next couple slides.
One of the pieces that's really important to creating a safe community on our campus is the topic of gender inclusivity and support for our LGBTQ community, right? Our lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender and queer community. So here's one of the pieces is our pronouns. You might have heard Huey and I did introduce ourselves with our pronouns. My pronouns are she and her. Huey's are
He, his, him.
he, his, him. So that's one of the things here in the States that I think you'll hear us do quite a bit. That's totally an option for you in most spaces to be able to introduce yourself with your pronouns to make sure that we get that right? Our student organizations, there's a number of them here on the screen to be able to support LGBTQ students. As listed, Haven, which is our LGBTQ student union, our graduate student association, as well as the Gender Justice Advocacy Coalition. And then we have a couple of offices that are also here to be able to support us. The Gender Equity Resource Center, as well as the LGBT Resource Center as well. So some of the offices that are here to support us. One of the other pieces around this, and I'm actually gonna, check that out, is around Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is a movement that has really been around the topic of police brutality, and to really eradicate that white supremacy and to build that local power to intervene between some of the violence that has been happening on Black communities by the state and other pieces, right? Versus some of the All Lives Matter, which also might be parts that you may hear here in the States. And so these labels have really become highly politicized, right? And so I really want to note that this is here, just so it doesn't catch any of us off guard, right, as well. And so we also are going to continue to talk about some racial inequities, thinking about some of our COVID, some of the things that have happened in COVID, alongside of some of the other kind of barriers that have existed within our society and around the world relative to some of those racial inequalities. It's kind of highlighted some of those pieces, right? The other piece is there's also been some of that movement happening here on our actual campus over the course of the last 3 or 4 years too. So just thinking about how that we can be supportive as well, and thinking about that you might hear some of this conversation. There are clubs and organizations to also support as well. We've highlighted one here on the screen, our Black Student Empowerment position. This person is brand new to our Dean of Students team. They actually are starting in the next week or couple weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. So there will be an associate dean of students and director of Black student empowerment within our team as well. And so just to really highlight how important this is on our campus.
So the last thing we want to touch on here is anti-Asian racism. And so this is something in your home countries you may have read about in the papers. Right around COVID, when COVID first started in 2020, Asians were scapegoated, and especially in the US and other places around the world, as the reason for COVID-19. And that led to increased levels of violence against Asians and Asian Americans in the US. Very, very troubling. It's something to kind of be aware of if you're not already. In terms of one incident happened in 2020 in March in Atlanta. There was a shooting in spas where 6 Asian identifying females were murdered. And this really brought heightened awareness towards Asian fetishization and just the issues with that. The other thing that I want to mention here is the model minority myth. And this is the idea that Asians are doing great, they're achieving, they don't need any help, they never struggle. And it's a myth, and that it means that it's not true. I myself identify as Asian. I know it's not true. I know I struggle. I know I'm not good in math. But the stereotype is Asians are great at math. I struggled. And so this is something for you to be aware of if you identify as Asian, because it's something that can be hurtful and may impact your experience. To extend more on where you can kind of find community and talk to people about some of these things. There's so many student organizations. So in this area, I can think of the Cornell's Asian Pacific Student Association Union, Asian Pacific Student Union, CAPSU, or the South Asian Council, SAC. There are tons of student organizations. That's a great way to find connections. And last but not least, a shameless plug for my office, the Asian and Asian American Center that I'm able to direct. And I'm a resource too, and giving support and just talking if you find any concerns in this area. And to round this out, there are actually quite a few offices in this area that's a part of the Dean of Students office. Asian and Asian American Center, Black Empowerment, Gender Equity Resource Center, LGBT Resource Center that we just talked about. That's a part of a larger body, a larger group that's new on campus. It's the Centers for Student Equity, Empowerment, and Belonging. Our short name is the Centers. We're located all around campus. One place is 626 Thurston, right across the bridge on North Campus, next to BB Lake. We're also located, our Gender Equity Center is located in Willard Straight Hall. Spirituality and Meeting Making, which we didn't mention, is located in Annabelle Taylor Hall or Sage Chapel. And then I also want to quickly plug, we have a first-gen limited income support and undocumented student support located in Barnes Hall. It's a new location. And then last but not least, we have a new Latinx Empowerment Associate Dean of Students and Director, who is also in the same building where we are at 626 Thurston. Yes.
Someone else was excited. Yes. One of the pieces that's really important, I don't know if this is near you, but is this mental wellness. And we're going to kind of talk a little bit more about this as a connection to resources and support. So let's kind of dive into that, if that's okay, Huey. Let's go right to the next slide. One of the things that we like to think about is this thriving to maybe in crisis or really needing support, right? This thriving being like, yes, I got this. I have this. I know what I'm doing. I don't need any help. I'm good, right? To maybe something's not quite right here. Thinking about the yellow or the second kind of column here. Something's not quite right. There's something up. I might need some help, but I don't really know, right? This struggling, like, whoa, there is so much work that I have to do. I'm going to put it in the context of academic work because that's probably the easiest piece here around this part. I just have so much work to do that I can't even keep up and I don't even know where to start, right? It just feels like there's oodles, tons of things coming at me, right? And then the last part is really that part where we're like, oh no, I can't survive with this, right? I have so much work to do. I have so much happening, all of these things. I don't even know where to start. I'm not going to make it, right? I'm not going to make it in terms of like finishing all these things by the end of the semester and getting all of my assignments in. And I feel like I don't have as many connections around here, going back to connectedness. So we're going to talk a little bit more about what happens when we're on this continuum where we might need some help or some support. And we think that maybe we're struggling a little bit.
Yeah, so just to add on to what Kim was saying, I want to bring it back to this idea of connectedness and just hammer this point home and how important this is in making those connections. And I think it is tempting to think, oh, I came to Cornell to get my degree, right? To be a Cornell alum, right? And to learn all these things. Yes, that is true. I'm not going to take that away from anyone here. But what is equally important, I think, to kind of help you thrive academically is making those connections and thinking about, just like you would have to buy a pair of boots and get a warm jacket to deal with the Cornell winters and the snow, you have to kind of think about your emotional well-being too, to make sure that you can kind of survive these 4 years while you're here. So there is research that shows that Lynn's sense of belonging is connected to well-being and persistence. Persistence meaning going through college and being able to eventually graduate. So this idea of belonging, again, is social support, acceptance, and connecting to people on campus. And then so the last thing I just want to say here is this regular interpersonal contact with friends, professors, staff, talking to people is really important. I mean, I feel like you're already meeting people here during Prepare. This is a great program to kind of get you started on the right foot. And so look at those times when you're like chit-chatting in between sessions or you're at lunch. These are people that could be friends throughout your 4 years. So this is a great time to meet new people. And then I will also just add quickly that I work with a group of alumni through the Cornell Asian American Alumni Association. I know that's far off and you just got here, but those are people that I talk to. They love Cornell and they still love Cornell. And it's really not just, it's the classes and what they learn, but it's really the people, I think, that shines through. It's the people that they still continue to stay in contact with and want to go out and still meet after they graduate from Cornell.
Some of the pieces we wanted to talk about too are some of our built-in support, right? We know that sometimes things are going really well and we're like, we've got this, right? Thinking about the column that was in green on that first kind of image that we saw. And sometimes it kind of goes to the other side where we're maybe not as well. And sometimes we need our friends or our family or staff to be able to support us. Sometimes we also need a staff member that's on call. So we do also have an administrator on call each and every day, right? This is a non-clinical support for students working through things, right? And sometimes that is maybe if somebody ends up going to the hospital because maybe they fell and hurt their foot or something, right? Or sometimes that is something else that might be happening. Sometimes somebody isn't well at home and we need to be able to go home or go to family or friends that are near to us, right? Like near to our heart, not necessarily physically near to us. So this is a good way to be able to contact one of our administrators on call just by calling Cornell Public Safety 24 hours a day, and you can get a hold of somebody to be able to help and figure out some of those connections. The other piece that's really helpful is to talk about what we can do, right? Here are some pieces that we can do. We can help with some academic consideration. So just to be able to say, hey, the student's working through something and they need some support. Student Disability Services Connection. We're not Student Disability Services, and we'll talk about Student Disability Services in a minute, but we can provide that connection to their office. We can also help with like support filing a transport if we go to the hospital, right? How do we get help? Our student athletes, we can provide some support there, as well as emergency funding. Sometimes we need, you know, if we need to fly to, I think fly home for some of us, right? Is not around the corner, right? And so be able to get in contact with some of that emergency funding. We can also help with that as well as not necessarily help with emergency funding, but help you figure out where do I even start, right? Additionally, one of the pieces we like to highlight is that there's somebody in our office every day. We're in Willard Straight Hall on the second floor that's available all day long, Monday through Friday. Just to, if you happen to be in the area, maybe eating at the dining hall, or you have a concern that's more pressing and you want to come into our office, or you can even call our office during the day, any of those options to connect with the dean of the day. One of the other pieces here is really highlighting what our resources are. Huey talked just a few minutes ago about there are over 1,000 student organizations. There's so many. And if you don't find one that really fits for you, you can also start your own, right? So there's lots of options here as well. The graduate school, we talk a little bit about the graduate school as sometimes that next step, right? Our Ithaca community. Yes, you've come to Cornell and that's amazing and fantastic. We're so glad that you're here. The other piece is the city that we live in, the city of Ithaca. And then how can Cornell Health be a resource for you as well? If you're at a place where you feel like you need more support, right? That emotional, as Huey talked about, that emotional support is something that we're all about here, right? It's considered part of our overall healthcare. Just like we're taking care of our physical body, we also have to take care of our mental and physical body together, right? About 20% of our students do seek support every year from CAPS, from counseling and psychological services, or one of the aspects of Cornell Health. And somebody's available 24 hours a day to be able to help you. If it's 2 o'clock in the morning, someone's there to be able to help. These are some phone numbers that are helpful to be able to put into your phone. So if you want to get your phone really fast and plug in these 2 numbers or take a picture, that would be really helpful just to make sure you have them in your phone. And a reminder that just asking for help is a sign of strength for you to say, I think I need help, or I think I need support. I think I need a connection to somebody. That's really what we're all about. And I think what Cornell's about too, in some ways, right? Of like really asking for the help and support that we need.
You know, I think that's a really good point about asking for help. I know that's something that I very rarely like to do, or didn't like to do, definitely when I was in college. And it's not always when it doesn't have to be something that's very tragic, like a major issue, but it could also be just simply asking questions, going to office hours, talking to your professors, talking to your advisor, asking questions like that. I realize this is a lot of information. And I assume that Lauren and Margaret and folks will send this out to the students so that you all have this. So I think the big takeaway is that there's a lot of support here on campus. And I'm going to just go through one final piece, which is Student Disability Support Services. It's a separate office from where Kim and I work, but a really important office here on campus that we want to mention to you all. It's a program that works with students and faculty and staff to support accessible, equitable, be inclusive of students with disabilities. I know a couple years ago, they saw over 4,000 students. And so it's a very important resource. I think the other thing that's really important is they kind of take in various forms of documentation, whether you've had a disability in the past, or you don't know if you have a disability and you want to see if the office can help. I think that's important to think about. Also, I think, especially in the US, I think this idea of having a disability and supporting it is kind of very medicalized. It's seen as more of a medical thing, but Student Disability Services also embraces this idea that having a disability is a strength, and there is a disability culture around the community, and it's not just about the medical model for the disability community here. So that's something I want to mention. So again, here's the website. Yeah. This is the last slide.
Me. All right. One of the things we would love, we just chatted and talked through a ton of information, right? So much. Did we talk really fast through a ton of information? Some of you are like, no, it wasn't fast enough. We needed that information to be even faster, right? Okay. So I would love for you to take the person next to you and just be able to share or talk through 2 things that you will remember or take away from our presentation today. What are 2 things that we just talked about that you want to remember besides the mints? Goodness. All right, we're going to bring it back. Can you hear me? Ready? Ready, 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 ready. It's the only singing I do right there. That's it. We're done. No more karaoke. No, just kidding. No karaoke or anything. All right. I would love to hear from the group best answers. No, I'm just kidding. Any answer about what are some takeaways from today? 2 or 3 maybe folks that want to share something you talked about. Yes.
For us, it would be ask for help because there are so many times when we've needed help, but we haven't asked for it.
Yes, to ask for help, especially when you need it. And sometimes it feels scary to be like, I think I need some help or some support, right? What else? Yes.
I think something for us international students as well is to be aware of some of the topics here that are quite controversial that maybe don't directly affect us, where some of us are very privileged to not have to have been involved with it, not experienced it, but it's just to be aware so we don't get ourselves into trouble some one way or another.
Very well said.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I guess to just like be and along the same lines to just like be aware and respectful and yeah, mindful of like the different experiences that can lead us here.
Thank you. Maybe one more person. Oh.
Say that the whole idea of connectedness is so important. So finding like one person, just one person you know that you can be vulnerable with. I know as a student, I needed that. And so just, you got to find that one person.
Thanks, Margaret.
Margaret. Sound good?
Okay, so that is our presentation. Thank you so much. Welcome again to Cornell, and this is our contact information. Please feel free to reach out. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Kim. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Oh. All right, so we are now going to move to the final portion, which is our student panel. So let's see who we have here. We have Afshin, Samuel, Ahid, and Joan. If you could come on down, come on this way. Welcome. You're all bearing in mind. So this is what we're going to do. Share one mic. And then if you two could share one mic and just pass it back and forth. Okay, so welcome everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. Really appreciate it. So we've got your names up there. If we can start off, by just doing a brief introduction. You can start on I'm getting some feedback. If you can start on my side, and then we'll just take turns going down. If you want to say about yourself, maybe home country, what you're studying, we'll start with that.
Hello, everybody. My name is Zahid Kareem. I'm a rising junior. Well, I'm gonna be a junior starting tomorrow. I'm double majoring in the College of Arts and Sciences, History and Economics. I'm from Pakistan originally. So on campus, I'm involved. Like I'm a tour guide on campus. I also compete part of the Cornell's varsity polo team. I also do Model UN on conference. And I'm also part of Greek Life. So I've met a lot of people on campus, and I can where to like share my experiences about adjusting to Cornell. I'll let Samuel introduce himself next.
Cool. Thanks, Ahid. I'm Samuel. I'm from Rwanda, East Africa. It's the cleanest country in Africa. For those of you who did not know that, I love talking about that. So yeah, I'm a rising sophomore here at Cornell. I do info science and agriculture science, and I'm part of few clubs here on campus. So I'm planning to join more. I did so many applications. I got rejected, but I'm hoping to join some more professional business clubs as well. I'm very much interested in business as well. And then I work for Cornell Team and Leadership Center. I love leadership so much as well. And then I'm so much excited to be part of this. Hope we'll have great time together. Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
My name is Joan, and this is gonna be my third year here. I'm an engineering major, so I'm involved in a bunch of project teams, and I'm also doing business minor. So I'm also doing like some business stuff and like healthcare stuff. I'm also part of Greek Life, and that's all.
I'm of Sheen. I'm a sophomore. I'm studying computer science and arts and sciences. Also because I'm an engineering major technically, I'm also in project teams. I'm a part of Big Red Hacks. We organize like the largest hackathon in the States for undergraduate students. I'm a part of International Students Union, and I would definitely recommend checking out their events. You guys met like a few members on the virtual programming as well. I'm also involved in astrophysics research because I have an astronomy minor. That's pretty much it.
Well, great. Well, great to meet everybody. Just a quick question. Lauren, can you hear me fine when I'm talking like this? Okay, great. So I have a range of questions for this group. I'll ask some, and then maybe we'll open it up for others so that you can ask some of your own questions. The first question I have, it sounds like you all are very involved, that you have a lot going on. Could you talk about how maybe through your academics or through your different kinds of involvement, you've been able to create community? And how did you know that you had a community at some point?
Yeah, I guess I can go. So Cornell is a big school, 15,000 undergraduate students. But that also means that there are people from all over that will definitely have like similar interests to you. I'm not going to lie, as an international student coming to the US is my first time, and I was really anxious, but I promise you, everybody else is in the same boat. Doesn't matter where they're from, everybody's just trying to make friends their first couple of weeks, especially. And I think the key is to just put yourself out there, and that's what I did. I got to meet a lot of new people, and I was like able to kind of narrow down my groups to people that have the similar interests to me, but I still have friends outside of my clubs because everybody at Cornell, like after a year, it feels like everybody kind of knows everybody. Like you're always just one degree away from knowing the next person. And yeah, I would just say put yourself out there and you will eventually find your community, because first year is all about meeting new people, and everybody is in the same boat as you. So yeah, I'll let Samuel add to it.
Yeah, exactly as Zahid said. Like when you first got here, like the first goal is like you wanna meet new people, right? Because you don't know anybody, or you know very few people. So the goal, like for me, for my case, it was like I really wanted to meet people. I really wanted to get to know people, ask like so many questions. And for you, this prepare is so helpful because like you get to meet people before like the semester starts, before the old like students come. So it's a very great opportunity for you to get to meet people, get like comfortable, and they get to explore a lot of stuff. So like the more you get to know people, and like the more you get to interact with people, the more you get confident, and the more you get aware of like different opportunities and things that are available on campus. And when it's time for like joining clubs and stuff, like you are already like feeling comfortable, and you already have like awareness of like what's going on, and like you can easily join some things. So it was really great. Like the people that I met during prepare, during the first days, they were very helpful. I kept them as my friends. They really helped me a lot. So like as he said, just throw yourself out there, seek out different opportunities, and find out like which organization is better for you depending on your interests and what you want to do here at Cornell. And I know everything will be great. Something he mentioned that was very important. I know everybody's like anxious and like feeling a little bit of like not comfortable, frustrated a little bit. That's something that is not new for all international students as you come here. You might, because everything is not familiar with you. When you walk around campus, like everything is new. You never been here before. You're trying like to figure out most of the things, but it's the same thing for everybody. Like the way I was feeling might probably be the same way you're feeling, the same way like your friends are feeling. So it's about like knowing that you're not alone in this journey, and just try to push yourself a little harder, and everything will be great.
Yeah, just as what Simon said, I really like that. Because like as freshmen, you guys have like mostly the same experience. You gotta go into like new dorms and a new life altogether. Um, for me, when I was a freshman, it was like the easiest time to make friends because everyone started at zero and you don't have anything like established yet. So you can just go out and reach out to the people that's sitting next to you in lecture hall, or like you guys are taking the same class. There's a lot of like the first year writing class, that stuff, and just go talk to people that sit next to you, or like talk to people that share the room with you, your roommates, your suite mates, and they're like, go out there, throw yourself out there and explore stuff. You will make friends easily, and that would bring you the community.
Yeah, I feel like in your first semester, especially, Cornell tries so hard to give you so many events to interact with people. So you'll find events that are just geared at making friends for freshmen at every corner, whether it's in your major, whether it's in your college, or even in your dorms, you would have, weekly dorm meetings, you would have RA meetings where you'll get to meet all of your floor mates. And that's a good time to start talking to people. I know my dorm used to have like a baking tradition. So we would all get together and bake sometimes. You could start that for your dorm. And outside of like the academics club, there are so many fun clubs that you can join, which I feel like help build community more because you guys have the same hobbies and interests outside of academics. And Cornell has like the most obscure clubs you can think of. So don't think that you won't find a club of your interests. We have beekeeping, we have origami, we have bread making. So we have everything that you can think of, and just go out there and explore all of it.
So you all, I think an important takeaway from what they're saying is that you need to really approach getting to know others from multiple angles, right? So that might be, in your courses, where you're living, in your residence hall, through different student organizations, right? I think you really have to be actively engaged. And from my experience, many times it's not going to be just in your classes, right? Because many times you come into class, you sit down, you pay attention, the bell rings or whatever, and you leave, right? I think it really takes a lot of time to be able to get to know people in class. Maybe once you start having work groups, then you're going to have more connection. So I think early on, you're all giving good advice. Really do take advantage of these first couple of weeks, right? Where there's so much to do so that you can get involved. Thinking beyond maybe the social piece, right? There's also, yes, I mean, you're here at an elite institution to really take advantage of, the academics and the professional development that comes from that. How has it been for all of you to kind of find what your work-life balance is? How do you define that? How does that maybe change as the semester goes on? Any reflections on finding that balance? And you don't have to go in order, so you can jump at it as you want. And if you haven't found a good work-life balance yet, that's okay too.
Cool. So there is always like a way that we all do things differently. Like everybody's different from everybody. So everybody has like the way they do their own things. So like for me, what has been good for me is like like Cornell, to be honest, like there is a lot of stuff. So when it comes to academics, it can be hard. I won't hesitate to say that it can be hard. But like again, I would say there's so many things to do as well. Like as a student, like you have a lot of schoolwork, but again, there are so many other things they can do, like extracurriculars. So for me, what has been very helpful was like when I started using like a schedule and like having my calendar, like having like everything that I have to do, make a plan, be like, oh, this week I have these classes and I have like these events, write down everything when I have to do this and this, and then like I try to create time for these other things. Because if you don't have like schedule, you don't know what's going on, like you can mess up with like almost everything. So it's been like very helpful for me, like knowing what I have to do, having that schedule. I know like I spend a lot of time like with my advisors, and one of the things they really advised me was like having a schedule and like know what I had to do like at the right time, and that has been so helpful. And then apart from academics, of course I tried to join like some other organizations. I met so many friends. We did so many things. We went outside sometimes, we went eating, we went hiking, we went for sport, we did so many things. And that has been like so helpful, helping me like to balance my academic life, but again with social life and all these other things.
Yeah, I guess I can go next. So I have one word, two words, Google Calendar. I never really used that in high school. I know a lot of international high schools don't have like that kind of tradition going, but in the US, at least in college, you have to balance a lot. So I did the British education system, which is A levels. I had one final exam at the end of the year. In the US, it's not like that. Attendance counts, discussion counts, participation counts, like the random assignments throughout the year, they count towards your final grade. So keeping track of all that, Google Calendar really helped me. Definitely go to office hours. Like I feel like office hours are so underrated. It's a great way to develop a relationship with your professor. Letting them know if your background really helps, that you come from like an international background, and they're able to like accommodate you if you're like facing that learning curve, adjusting to American college life and all that stuff. Also, don't take an 8 a.m. For me, I thought I could wake up on time. Maybe you're an early riser, but it's not like high school. Definitely take a lighter course load your first semester so you can like spend more time exploring college, getting used to it. Because for you guys, it is a whole new experience. Like for most of you guys, it's your first time in the States. So academics are important. You want to do well in your classes. So like take a lighter course load your first semester. That is what I would recommend. But yeah.
For me, one thing that has really helped is using Notion to kind of organize everything, especially this thing called a second brain on Notion that, you can find videos on YouTube how to build it. And it's literally like a second brain for you. It'll keep track of everything, of all your assignments. And I'm a very like a visual learner, so I find it good to kind of make everything into graphs. So, I mean, tracking my progress through graphs, and that second brain does everything for you. So, in addition to Google Calendar, that's a really good way to kind of keep track of all your assignments, all of your due dates, um, not just for academics, but also if you're in like a professional club, pre-professional clubs, and you have deliverables, you can like a lot of pre-professional clubs will have their own like Notion that you can kind of download onto your Notion. And you can always find like YouTube videos for all of this. Office hours are definitely really underrated. I studied in like the normal Indian system of education. And for us, if you wanted additional help, you would just go to the teacher at the end of the class. And, there was like a conception that only kind of like the weaker students would go to the teacher, and it can kind of stay in your head. So you wouldn't want to go to office hours because, you're coming from a background where you're like, I don't want to ask for help. If I'm intelligent, I don't need that help. But at Cornell, you really need those office hours. So definitely go to them. There are academic excellence workshops that, if in the first 2 weeks you realize that a class is extremely hard, you still have like ad drop coming in, you can enroll in those AWs, because then you get more of like one-on-one mentorship to study in those classes. um, Make use of the learning center. Most of the like the big freshman classes, the learning centers will have tutors available to you. If you're in engineering, they will have even more tutors available to you. So Cornell has a lot of resources for kind of maintaining your workload, and I would definitely recommend exploring all of them and using all of them. And strike like a good rapport with your advisor at the start of the semester. You might not want to reach out to them, and then when you get like your first C and you don't know what that means for your GPA, you run to the advisor. Don't wait till that moment to like go to your advisor. Start reaching out to them and start setting meetings with them from like the first week itself, and try to talk to them like every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks. They're really, really helpful. So yeah.
Yeah, so everything we mentioned above, they're like really good advice. And I just want to say, like, when I first got to Cornell, everyone around me, they seemed to be like knowing what they're doing. And I got like heavy imposter syndrome here. It's always like I'm like not as good as people. I'm not good in this, I'm not gifted and stuff. So that really makes you like doubt yourself and like having like just problems. And I would say like when you're like taking classes, and stuff, try to prioritize what matters to you, because everyone's going to be doing their own stuff. People are doing research, people are looking for internship, and they're like really have like campus engagement. They have like clubs and project teams and everything. So everyone got their own schedule, but you don't want to compare yourself to every one of them. You wanted to see like what really matters to you and just go with that. And about like work and life balance, I would say like when it's time for work, just do it to the maximum. When it's time to work your ass off. And when it's time to go out and have fun, just do that. And also like I went to high school in Beijing, China, and when like it's like a really intense education system, and everyone just want to like compete with each other and try to like be in a top in the class. But here I learned how to like work in groups and like find like people in your class and that you could collaborate with. And that's like a huge part of my study, because sometimes you miss something in class and you're not like paying full attention all the time. And when you miss stuff, you want to talk to your classmate, you want to talk to your friends. And when you're working together, it's just a lot faster than you're learning by yourself. Yeah, that's all for me.
So a couple of you have brought things up kind of related to maybe the cultural environment in the classroom. And maybe for some of you, you know, coming from high school, Cornell was a similar approach. It sounds like for some of you, things were different. Many international students will bring up things like the relationship with a professor and, you know, how to speak to the professor, you know, using first name or, you know, kind of addressing in a different way. Other things like, you know, participating in class, asking questions. You know, were there other things that stood out for you that took some time to get used to culturally in terms of the kind of the academic environment and how you engaged?
Yeah, definitely there are so many things that was like very helpful. Like for me, I think like stepping into professors and like start asking questions was like the thing that changed in my life here at Cornell. To be honest, when I just got here, like the thing that everybody was talking about was like seeking for help. I was like, okay, like I didn't pay much attention about that. But like when I did it, these things are very real. Like when I did it, like my life changed. I think one time I shared this story with Rodin. Like there was this class I was taking, like as international student. I wasn't used to anything in the United States, and like everything they're talking about was like American perspectives, and I did not get anything, to be honest. But what happened, I was struggling in this class, and I was at the point of like dropping this class. I was like, I'm gonna drop this class, I'm not gonna handle this. But what happened, I was like, maybe before I drop this class, let me first email the professor and CC like the TAs and see what will happen before I drop this class. So I did the same thing. I emailed them and talked to them. And then what happened, the professor responded me in a very, very, very caring ways. He was like, Samuel, thank you so much for reaching out to me. I do appreciate you, and I'm willing to help you as much as you want. He was like, just ask me anything. How can I help you? Stuff like that. He encouraged me like in the class, it's okay. You can stop me anytime and ask any question that you wanted. And then like he gave me an opportunity like to meet with like all the TAs. I wrote down all the questions that I had in the class. I scheduled a meeting with the TAs. I met with the TAs. They went through everything that I wasn't understanding. And guess what? At the end of the semester, this is the class that I performed well. I got a straight A, and I was almost dropping this class. Can you imagine? So it's about like seeking for help and like understanding that you really, really need help. So if you don't see something, it doesn't mean it's not there. There are other people who have it, like professors, TAs, your fellow classmates. Like always, like if you feel like you need anything, go for it, ask for it. Don't fear. Don't be like, maybe they'll think I'm stupid or I'm weak. No, it's okay. Just go ask people. They will help you and will be so helpful. So I feel like that's the most thing that have been so helpful for me. Like participating in the class, like talk in the class, ask questions, give comments. No one is gonna stop you, or it's not about even professors. Everybody will be proud of you. Like the professors will like you, and everything will be great. Just be active, ask anything, contribute in the class. If they need examples, give examples from your perspectives, from your country. Everybody's very respectful and be happy to hear from you. So just be open and go for it.
Yeah, I guess I can echo. I totally agree with what Samuel just said. Asking for help, you definitely want to do that. No one's gonna judge you for it. I didn't start going to office hours or even asking my professor for help until my second semester freshman year. And I can tell you there was a remarkable improvement in how I performed in classes because professors are really helpful. TAs are really helpful. They're all there to help you. And on top of that, I will also say go to class. Don't miss classes. That is a big one. I know it's really hard. It can be hard. It was really hard for me, but you're traveling halfway across the world to get an education from the U.S. And every class, I promise you, there's definitely something new you learn, a new perspective. So yeah, go to class and go to office hours, and I promise you, things will be a lot easier than you can imagine.
Yeah, I definitely agree with those. But for me, the situation is like slightly different. I took like a CS class that semester just for fun. I don't know why I did that, but that class was like super hard and like I was failing everything. But I also did like office hour. I went to all the office hour. I went to all my classes, but for some reason I'm not getting there. Like it's just super weird because also for like freshmen, a lot of classes are like big classes. It's like big weight out classes, 700 people in a lecture hall. And it's really hard to be the top, like being top in the class. And that's something that I learned here in the US. Because back home, you want to be perfect. You want to get straight A. You want to get a 4.0. But here, you got to accept the imperfection. Like sometimes we're just there. Like you have to work hard for it. I'm not saying like you shouldn't work hard. You should work hard and accept and embrace where you can get to. Don't get like depressed if you couldn't get to the top. And yeah, that's just totally fine. That's something I learned.
So my first semester, I would not ask like anybody for help. I was scared to reach out to my professors, to my TAs, even like the tutors I had from the peer center, even just my peers. I was just completely scared to ask for help. But I feel like it kind of changed towards the spring semester, basically out of necessity. I was taking a class in the law school, and it was like the American Constitution. And, we would deal with very famous cases from the States, and all the people in the class would know those cases, and they would be able to like cite the article of the Constitution that like pertained to whatever law was being made. And there's cold calling in law classes. So we had like our name tags in front of where we were sat. And I would just like, I was literally shaking whenever I would sit there and the professor would ask a question because I never knew when she might ask me. And I had like completely zero understanding of the American Constitution. And I feel like I should have told her that, but I just didn't know how to. But one day, just completely out of like the like fear, I went to her and I asked her that, I'm an international student. I don't really have a lot of experience with US Constitution, US laws. Um, and she's a professor in the law school, but she took time out of like her schedule to help me find books that give you like a one-track way to learn about US laws, to learn about various articles, and get like a quick review of policy. So definitely reach out to your professors. If you find it hard, like if they don't reply to your emails, send them a second email. A lot of times they will tell you not to email them because on like some periods because they're like out of office or they've gone to some conference. Then you can reach out to your tutors. You can reach out to your seniors if you join like like not exactly clubs, but there's a lot of study groups that you can join. They would be group me's for different classes that people would make, and they would invite you to join them. So first step would be to kind of ask for help in those group me's, and then you can kind of build your courage to ultimately talking to professors. And if you want to do research, talking to professors is like necessary because eventually in like it's their labs that you have to go in. So if you know them and they know you and they kind of know your background, where you come from, where your interests are, if they don't have a space for you in their lab, they'll be able to recommend you to a colleague who might have space for you. And that's really helpful if you are interested in research.
I just realized everyone's experience is pretty positive. I just want to say this, like, push yourself hard, but just don't push yourself off the cliff. Like, it's okay to like embrace the imperfection.
Yeah. So Ashwin mentioned GroupMe. Please download GroupMe. I didn't know what GroupMe was. Everybody back home used WhatsApp. For some reason, everybody in the States uses GroupMe for formal communication, for your clubs, for your classes. So I would definitely recommend that you download that app.
So, you've all spoken really well about things that you've done in many ways to kind of accept yourselves, right? And understand that you don't maybe know everything, right? To kind of, wrestle a bit with your own, self-confidence and your own kind of idea of yourselves as students, right? And that really takes a lot to get to that point, but it sounds like for all of you, it was actually really helpful, actually profound, to realize that you do need to ask for help, that you can't do everything. What are some, other ways, being in such an intense environment, right, that you found to you could kind of say practice self-care, right? That's something that's really big, increasingly big in the United States, the idea of self-care. Those could be things like, getting back in touch with family and friends, back home. It could be exercise. There's a variety of things. What have you all found that's been good for you to kind of practice self-care, and to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and you're giving yourself that time to kind of re-energize and keep going?
Yeah, I guess I can start. So Cornell has a great outdoor education program, a great physical education program. You have to take 2 Ps to graduate, but I've been taking Ps every semester because it's a great way to pick up new hobbies. I would definitely say explore these programs. Cornell has a lot of resources aside from that too, to try out new things. It's good to be outside of class or outside of the mindset of just worrying about prelims and finals once in a while. Join these fun clubs or take these fun classes. I think for me that definitely worked out really well.
Yeah, I would say something that's been so helpful for me is like having a network of friends who are really caring and who really understood me was very helpful. I remember sometimes I'll be ending the day very tired, feeling like I don't want to do anything else, but I join these friends of mine. Let's say we are doing something together or we are having a meeting. From there, I would come back feeling very strong and energetic. So I would say, of course, having a group, a network of friends, people whom you share interests, maybe let's say in the clubs and stuff, it will be very helpful in terms of self-care. Sometimes you might feel stress. You don't want to be in your room when you're feeling stressed and something like that. You want to be with some friends and just do something fun. He mentioned something that really stood out to me, Cornell outdoor education. But there are other things. There's sports. I love sports in general. Try to do sport, to be honest. I know you guys are very smart and want to excel academically, but you want to make sure you maintain your physical abilities of your body as well to stay healthy. So make sure you are doing sports. You can do it with your friends, but again, they can also do it through classes as well. Take PE classes. Actually, I'm teaching a log climbing class this coming semester. If you are interested, you can sign up. If it's not a full, make sure you're engaging physical exercise things. You're doing sports. You meeting friends. You're doing all these things are very, 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 very helpful. So yeah, that's what I would say in terms of staying healthy.
When I used to stress eat a lot when I was in high school, but here, all the way far away from home, I learned cooking, and I found out cooking with friends is such a stress releasing event. Because first of all, the food here is a lot different than at home, and whenever I get homesick and stuff, I just cook home food with a bunch of friends together, and that was highly good. You got to spend time when you're cooking, you do the preparation, you do grocery shopping all together. It's quality time that you spend together with friends. And yeah, and the food is the rewards after. And that was fun. Just don't trigger the fire alarm and everything would be good.
For me, cooking was a really helpful thing as well. Just not like very elaborate stuff because I'm not a good cook. I have set off fire alarms like 2 times. But like simple basic stuff, just buy some strawberries, buy some dark chocolate, make chocolate dipped strawberries, buy homemade cake, just like make very basic stuff, but you get that time to spend with your friends. Um, One thing I would try to do like almost every second week was on Tuesdays, some people get together in one of the food science halls and we just bake bread for 4 hours. So I would try to go to that like as so that like sign up forms fills up very quickly because they only have a limited amount of space. But I would try to go there almost every other week and we would bake so much bread and then we would have nowhere to send it. Um, so we started sending it to like NGOs and stuff in Ithaca. But it's a really fun experience. Sometimes you start like fighting with flour with people, like punching the bread. It's really satisfying, like the dough and the yeast has risen. Um, Probably the most like stress releasing thing for me is paintball. So there's a team that competes in paintball like competitively, and every Sunday we go down to the arena and we practice paintball. So again, that also has very limited signups. But you can, if you're a freshman, they give you preference. And just every Sunday, you'll go down for 3 hours, you'll shoot at people. And that's like the best way to release stress for me. There's also like a shooting arena nearby, and a bunch of people go there as well. So, I mean, I guess I release stress by violence, but it's harmless violence. So,
So thank you all so much for sharing those, personal, kind of insights on what you do, to self-care. And I think, in my experience for a lot of international students, the kind of stresses that you all are talking about, because of classes, because of, academic, managing an academic environment, engaging with faculty, the competition, the pressure that's on you, to do well because your families are supporting you. That's the same thing for domestic students as well, right? They're under that, but then you're also under another layer, right? Which is by being an international student here. And that I think for a lot of international students, that gets them to really kind of start to see their own identity in a different way, especially if they hadn't been an international student previously, and kind of thinking about what that maybe label now means. In your cases, what does that mean for you so far? How has your identity changed over time since you arrived to Cornell? And to any extent, is that by being international, how has that impacted you or not?
So I would say like coming to United States, I had never been here before. I didn't have like a lot of like culture different things in my mind. Like I didn't know much about like the culture different things. But I would say like understanding that culture difference is a thing and it's normal, like that would be like very, very, very helpful. Like understanding that people are different, people are coming from different backgrounds, like the way we do things in my country, of course, has to be different from the way you do things in your country. The way everything, the way you do it is completely different. So understanding that and being able to appreciate other people's culture is like very, very, very helpful. So the thing is like, yeah, we have our own culture back home, which I had. So when I came in this country, everything was different. What has been so helpful for me was like trying to appreciate everybody and like trying to learn like other people's culture and like trying to know what people speak. Like some of you have been hearing me speaking some Chinese. So when I came here, I didn't know Chinese, but like like I met some of friends from China, some friends from different countries, but like trying to engage in their cultures, like trying to understand them, and again like trying to share my own culture back home with people. Like that has been like so helpful. So I wouldn't say that my culture has changed, but like I got to learn like different other cultures, and it's been like very, very, very helpful. Like now, like the way I would interact with different people is very great before I came to Cornell. So it's been like very helpful. It's a very great opportunity to meet different people from different countries. Of course, even when you graduate here, you're gonna meet so many people, maybe in your career, maybe whatever you're gonna do. So this is gonna be like a very great opportunity for you to know how to interact with people and how to be successful in your future careers as well.
For me, I didn't have a lot of cultural shock because I mainly grew up on like American media, shows and everything. So in a way, it was really easy for me to kind of just forget about my culture and just assimilate myself with the domestic students because, that was a very easy route to take. But I found it really helpful to kind of keep connected with what's happening back in my country, because America is really big and it's very easy to kind of get lost in what's happening in the States because there's so much happening in the States all the time. But I find it really helpful to just kind of look up on, what's the situation on some topic in my country. Um, Almost all the countries have their own cultural clubs here at Cornell, and they'll celebrate almost all the festivals, all the holidays. And I find it really helpful to kind of attend all of those. For India, we have Diwali celebrations, we have Holi celebrations, we have like all the pujas, we have Durga Puja happening. So it's really helpful to kind of go there and get a taste of home, to just keep in touch with your culture. Um, and I feel like it's very, very helpful if you go there because you make friends with people from your country and they're able to further help you in kind of finding a community here, and share their experiences with you. So I would definitely recommend checking out your country's resources specifically here at Cornell.
For me, I would say like home for me, China is like highly homogenous country. It's not like super culturally diverse. We speak like basically a single language there. And after I came here, I realized how like diverse the campus is, and there's so many different cultures here existing. And it actually makes me to embrace my own identity and my own culture a lot more than before, because people are curious. People are curious about what you have experienced and your background and the history. So I gotta learn like a lot of different words. When I first learned, it's like in Chinese, and I gotta translate it in English so I can share it to my friends, so I could like actually tell them this is a thing and this is what's happening at home. So I would say, yeah, like coming here, there's not a lot of like conflicts in like the culture stuff. For me, it's more like knowing that how diverse the place is makes me embrace my own identity more.
Personally for me, I take a lot of pride in being an international student, and I think you guys should. I think it's pretty sick. It's kind of like living double lives, you know. You're adapting to a completely new environment socially, academically, and you're still here. And these are skills that not a lot of other people will have. So I would definitely take pride in that. It's important to take pride in your culture, but at the same time, I think it's also important to have social awareness and like situational awareness on campus. Also need to be respectful of other people's cultures, of the norms in the US, of the norms of people from all over, and kind of like adapt to that. Yeah, I would never, and I would definitely recommend that you guys never think that being an international student like holds you back. I think in a lot of ways you should be proud of it, because we work a lot harder than okay, I don't want to. I just think being an international student, you have a lot of struggles that other people in college will not necessarily have. So just take pride in that, and yeah.
I would love to ask something that the president of this university loves to say, that like we are all coming here to be shaped by Cornell, but like we also have to shape Cornell, and you're gonna shape Cornell the way you are. It doesn't matter like whether you're American or international student. So we're gonna shape Cornell the way we are, like from our countries, our cultures, like our perspectives. We can always like shape this university as well with our cultures and our differences. So it's fine. It doesn't matter. So don't step back or be like, oh, I don't deserve this. I'm not American. This is in America. So it's okay. Just bring your own perspectives and skills and cultures to shape and build this university as well. Because she loves saying this as well. You belong here because you belong here. This is your university. So you gotta shape it the way you are.
So that means 20 years from now, Samuel, president of Cornell, right? 20, 25, 15? No, you all phenomenal. Thank you all so much. Ahid, Samuel, Joan, Afshin, you guys were amazing. Really thank you for all of the insight. Can we get a round of applause for our panelists, please?